Hello, yellers. Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom, where we talk all things hot flashes, hard truths, and hell yes moments. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, your personal cheerleader, midlife mythbuster, and professional reminder that you are not too old and it's not too late. Today we're diving into a topic that we talk a lot about, or have been talking a lot about recently, and that's aging as a woman. Spoiler alert here, right? It's not all about the wrinkle creams and the anti-aging nonsense. It's power, perspective, and permission to finally take up space. And I think that's a really good conversation to have, especially when you're having it with other women of similar age to you. And I love the word permission. It's a word that I've been using for years in my coaching, because it's something that we have to be really conscious of. Giving ourselves permission to grow, permission to change, permission to be ourselves. And so I am intentionally recording this episode today with, clarity that you can see if you're watching this on YouTube. My gray roots are 4 weeks in, and I'm going on Tuesday to get them covered, but that's just because it's something I like to do. I actually toyed with growing out my hair during COVID, and it was not working for me. I don't have that kind of patience. So one day I'll probably buzz my hair and let it go gray, and that'll be that. But it won't happen. It's not going to happen soon. And I don't have any makeup on today. And that's kind of how I live almost every day these days, unless I'm client facing or have to go out to someplace where I feel like I want to put on makeup. The difference is, years ago, and really recently years ago, not 10 or 20 years ago, recently years ago, I still lived under the idea that I had to put a face on to go out. For the world to see me, I needed to be made up. And it didn't have to be a ton of makeup, but I'd had, concealer or stuff going on. I've never been a makeup or a lipstick kind of girl. I'm a big fan of Burt's Bees. I have these in all the flavors and all the colors, so yell out to Burt's Bees for making the best lip balm. I love it. So for me, I had to get comfortable in my own skin to feel like I could go out in public without putting on a face. My mom always had makeup on. Put your face on. She always had lipstick on. She used to say to me when I was younger, "Can't you just put on some lipstick? Put some color into your face?" And I'd be like, I don't like lipstick, right? But it kind of brings us to that are you kidding me moment. Are you kidding me that I have to wear lipstick to go outside because of what other people are going to think of me? What? We've been sold a lie. And the lie is that aging is not a problem. It is a society issue for sure, right? The way society talks about it, the way that it is portrayed in society, the way that it's projected. It's definitely an issue there. But I guarantee you, when you're walking into somebody's house, I don't judge how clean their house is. I'm just walking into their house because I want to be with them. And you kind of have to get over those stereotypes that have been, put into our minds to where it's you have to wear makeup, or you have to have this, or you have to do that. You don't have to do any of those things, right? We have been sold the idea that youth is equated with beauty and value and relevance. And it's about fitting into a mold and being celebrated for that. So everybody needs to look a certain way, and everybody needs to wear a certain this or a certain that, or have their makeup done a certain way. And we weren't, if you're from a certain generation like I am, we weren't being celebrated for our uniqueness, right? Everybody wore the same brands and carried the same bags and wore the same shoes. Nobody was stepping out of the box or really showing their uniqueness all the time. There were definitely some people who were that's not me, this is me. And they embraced their individuality very early on. And then there were other people my son, I'm going to be that person, right? I was very into pop culture is like a guilty pleasure of mine. I'm for sure, the reader of the People magazine. I click on the clickbait and do all the things. Like that's what I love to do. That and reality television. Love a housewife. But so I kind of gave into that, cosmopolitan magazine, glamour magazine reading era back in the day when I was in my teens and my early 20s to like, what's everybody wearing? What's this? I was very into fashion and accessories and that kind of stuff. I even, went to school for that for a while. And so it just kind of, I still love it, but I don't make it a priority, right? Like I'm now it's all about, for me, I do it for different reasons, right? So being celebrated for, our beauty gave us an idea that was what our worth. Our worth was associated with our appearance. Our relevance was associated with our appearance, right? And as we age, it's not always easy to look in the mirror when you have that sitting in the back of your mind, right? This idea that you have to look a certain way or be a certain way or always be young and not have, wrinkles around your mouth or around your eyeballs and, dark circles because I don't sleep because I'm menopausal and I'm still kind of trying to figure that whole thing out with my HRT stuff. And the gray hair and all the stuff that kind of goes with it, right? The extra weight gain from menopause. And, nobody is immune to this. And especially as women, we have to understand that we all look different for a reason. We're all built different for a reason. We should celebrate the differences instead of the similarities. And so instead of thinking that aging is about fading or shrinking or disappearing, right? Because that's what we were kind of taught when we were younger, right? As you get older, you're not as attractive. People aren't going to think that you're, relevant, right? You're going to shrink and let the young people come up behind you, except there's room for everybody all the time, right? And so what's our job? Is it our job to fight it, erase it, inject it, laser it, lift it, dye it, lighten it, tighten it, brighten it, and apologize for it? You don't want these lines. And there are so many people out there who are bucking that trend. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, because I want to call BS on it, right? I am with the people that are bucking the trend, right? Aging is not a decline. It's an ascension. We are not getting less. We are getting more. More clarity, more boundaries, more I don't give a fuck energy. I do not care. I follow some social media people, and there's a woman, Melanie Saunders, who started the We Do Not Care Club. And I think I've mentioned this on a prior episode, but she's hilarious. You follow her around her house in Florida or whatever she's doing. She lives in Florida, and she, just records things about stuff that as we get older, as mothers, as women, as professionals, as, just whatever it is that we are, we start to not care. I don't care if you haven't eaten. I don't care if your laundry is not done. I don't care. We care less about the things that actually really don't matter, and we care more about things that are impacting our lives in a much different way, right? I don't care if I have 2 loads of laundry to do. I'm going to pay more attention to what's going on in my community, for the things that I, am focused on and want to help impact, in people's lives, and that kind of change. Like that's where my I don't care energy comes from, or I don't give a fuck energy comes from, right? I have definitely learned how to put up more boundaries and really learn how to embrace how I am aging. Mortality is something that, as we get older, we think about, right? So, here's the thing, what aging actually feels like for us, right? And the whole mortality conversation comes in when you get to be a certain age and people around you are no longer earthside, or you're watching your people age, your parents, and we're parenting our parents. We're in that kind of in-between phase. And it's hard. It's hard to watch other people age, and it's hard to watch ourselves age, because we still think that we are, 25. My number is 28. I'm always like, I'm 28. I don't know what you think about me being 52, but I'm definitely 28. In my mind, I like to think that I'm 28 sometimes with my energy, but in real life, I am 52 years old. And it's important for us to, you know, be conscious of that, but not allow it to kind of overtake us. Because when you start thinking about lifespan, you kind of get freaked out a little bit, right? If you're in your 50s or even your 40s, you're on the downside of life. Most people don't live to be 100. Now, there's a lot of really great things happening in, advanced health and all of that stuff. So we definitely have the opportunity to have longer lifespans. And I don't know about you, but my family, my grandparents were all in their late 70s or 80s when they passed away, except my one grandfather, he was in his late 60s. But my immediate family, my parents both passed in their early 70s. And my brother was 47. So I am keenly aware of mortality for myself personally. And I am not on the same trajectory that we're on, I don't think. I have a much different health prognosis or diagnosis or future, just because I don't have the elements that any of them had. Good for me, right? I guess. Weird thing to say. But also an acute sense of time and how time is a gift. And we all have to every morning, even if you're going through a struggle or, you're having some overwhelming stuff going on, or even if you're battling a health crisis, you woke up today, and that is a gift. And I look at that every morning as a gift. I get another day with my kids and my husband and my family and my friends and my dog. And I get another day to come on here and have a conversation with you guys. And that to me is a gift. But when aging comes into the picture, because obviously it does, it gets real. Our knees start to make weird noises, right? Our hormones are raging, ladies. It could be a 2 o'clock night sweat or not sleeping or a middle of the day hot flash, whatever it is that you're going through in your own hormonal journey. It's harder to see. I now have to I had LASIK 17 years ago, and I still have 20/20 vision long term, like long distance. But my close-up vision is not that great. I mean, it's great, right? I use the lowest reader that is out there, but that is starting to change. So now it's like I'm wearing glasses in these things, and I didn't do that before. So those things, those visible things, those things that we feel. I have a very good friend of mine had back surgery a couple of days ago, and when she got the diagnosis, she looked at the doctor and she was like, "Are you sure? Because am I old enough to be having this happen to me?" And he looked at her and he said, "You're in your mid-40s. Of course you're old enough." And that kind of hit her like a ton of bricks, which I get, because we're all like, "What are you talking about? I'm 28. I'm not in my mid-40s or my 50s or whatever." Like, pick your number and go with it, right? I fully believe that if you embrace the number that you actually think you are in your brain, you're going to act that way for longer than you actually are in real life. And yes, the knees, make weird noises and crack, and the elbows hurt if I, hold something for too long, or if I play tennis, and that's just aging. And there are ways that we can, address those things. But aging also feels like not just physical stuff, right? It feels like as we get older, we go back to the I don't give a fuck moments, right? It's letting go of people pleasing. It's learning how to walk out the door without a stitch of makeup on and being like, I'm okay with this. And I don't care what anybody else has to say or has to think about that. Because, like I said in one of my prior episodes, other people's opinions are none of my business of me. Other people's opinions of me are none of my business, right? So it's letting go of people pleasing. It's dressing for yourself, not for other people, right? For your own comfort and your confidence, right? So if your wardrobe has shifted, I know for me in the summer, I do not wear a closed-toed shoe unless I am on a golf course or doing something that is requiring me to wear a closed-toed shoe. You are not going to see me in a shoe that doesn't expose my toes. I'm either in a flip-flop, a wedge, some kind of open-toed mule, something. I don't care. I don't care if I'm in a movie theater and it's 25 degrees. If it is 70, if it is 65 degrees or warmer out, my feet are not in shoes, because you know why? Shoes are hot. They make me hot, and I don't like to have hot feet. So I dress around my flip-flops most of the time, right? And that's for my own comfort and my own confidence. That's how I want to be in the summertime. Aging is really getting to know you and owning who you are. And there's nothing better than that, right? When you wake up, whatever day it is that you wake up and the light bulb goes off and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, take it or leave it, folks. This is me. And you are now the woman your younger self needed. You are now that person, right? Be that person. Have you ever seen that meme? Be the person that I needed when I was little, or when I was younger, when I was a teenager, when I was, right? Be that person who is going to speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself on your behalf. Be that person who advocates for your friends and your family and your children and your community. Be that person who is confident in their skin. And I know that's easier said than done, because as we age, our skin changes, right? It's like, oh, I didn't have this, and I certainly didn't have this, and I didn't have that. And it's very easy to pick out the stuff that you want to change. But I guarantee you, those are the things that a lot of people love the most about you. And so it's not about the loss of you or youth. It's about the arrival of you, and how you're going to continue this climb up this mountain that we are continually climbing, and change and grow and mature and, have your midlife glow up, because that is a real thing. Having a midlife glow up is a real thing. It's flipping the script. Instead of fearing the aging, what if we celebrate it? So I'm going to go back to my pop culture love. Right now, I see Pam Anderson, the Baywatch babe, right? 20 or 30 years ago when Baywatch was on TV. Google it for those of you who don't know. But if you're a middle-aged menopausal mom, you definitely do. The David Hasselhoff, Pam Anderson TV show Baywatch, where they were lifeguards in California. And Pam Anderson is this beautiful bombshell blonde. And, they wear their red one-piece bathing suits, and they're gorgeous. They're all beautiful people, right? But she was known for being a pinup girl and wearing all the makeup and having the body and doing all the things and being tan and all that stuff. Lately, in the last few years, she has been showing up au naturel. And she is just as beautiful, if not more so now, I think she's in her late 50s, early 60s maybe. I don't know. I should probably know that, but I don't. And she's right now on the red carpet for the Naked Gun 2 movie is out, and she's starring in it with Liam Neeson, who also is aging like fine wine, by the way. But she's on the red carpet promoting this movie, and she's wearing these beautiful gowns and jewelry, and her hair is done, and she does not have a stitch of makeup on her beautiful face. And it is so refreshing to see that. And it is empowering to see that, because I remember when Alicia Keys first started showing up years ago not wearing makeup, and she got slammed for it in the press. Slammed for it. How dare she show up without her makeup on? And Alicia Keys notoriously doesn't have like the most flawless skin, and she has said that out loud. And so she's like, this is it. I'm not covering this up anymore. And she is a beautiful woman. Celebrate her for who she is. Her talent, her beauty, her smarts, her business sense, her being a mom. Like, we need to be celebrating all of the things, not just some of the things. And I think the things that we used to celebrate in our youth, right? The hair and the makeup and the pretty faces and the bodies that we had when we were in our 20s that we kind of want back sometimes. Those are different things to celebrate. Now we are more emotionally intelligent. We are done wasting time on things that don't matter. We have got stories and scars and strength, and we don't need external validation. We are our own validation. Surround yourself with people who are that for you, right? They are your validation. You are your validation. I say to my kids, three things I say to my kids. Be happy, make good choices, and I love you. But be happy is specifically because it is nobody else's responsibility to make you happy except yourself. It's your responsibility. Now, that doesn't mean the people that you choose to have in your life shouldn't be part of that happiness, right? You choose them to be in your life because they make you happy. But it's nobody else's responsibility to say, do I make you happy? It doesn't matter. You have to make yourself happy with the choices that you make, which is why Make Good Choices shows up. Thanks to my friend Kathy. Yell out to Kathy, because she told me these three things when her children were little, and I stole them from her to tell mine. But really understanding that permission, we're going back to permission, giving yourself permission to find joy, to be happy, to validate yourself in your feelings. You can't tell me how to feel. I wrote that book. In your feelings, in your relationships, in your appearance, in all of the things. You are the validation, my friends. Midlife, we're in this weird place in midlife, right? It's not a crisis. It is a launch pad. It's a launch pad. You want to write a book? Go write a book. You want a new career? Get yourself a new career. You want to leave a relationship? That is a choice that you have to make for yourself after a lot of deep thought and consideration, right? You want to move across the country and adopt a dog? Yes, I highly recommend that. We didn't move across the country, but during COVID, we moved from New York to our home in Connecticut, and we're still here. 5 years ago. I mean, it's only 2 hours away, so we didn't move across the country, but we also adopted our dog, and he was the best decision we ever made. I mean, I'm sure my husband will argue that because he sleeps with us and he's all over the place and there's dog hair everywhere, but also he's secretly, I think, my husband's favorite person. Do those things. I was actually scrolling through the Instagram the other day, and there was an Italian owning a piece of an Italian villa for $190,000, and there's a beautiful pool, and it's in Tuscany, and it just looks gorgeous. And I said to my husband and my son, the little guy was around, and I said, you guys want to go move to Italy for $198,000, buy a couple of bedrooms in Tuscany and live on this estate? And they were both like, yup, let's go, right? Do things that bring you joy, right? But also validate the things that you feel like you can accomplish. Instead of saying, I can't do that, or having a dream of maybe wanting to write a book, or maybe doing a different volunteering somewhere, or trying it out a different job, or doing something. Maybe instead of I can't do that, can't is my least favorite word. Instead of I can't do that, what if I did do that? Reframe that, right? What if I did do that? What if I did try that? What's the worst that could happen? You fail. And there's nothing wrong with failing. Failing is an opportunity to learn. That's also something I use in my coaching, right? So giving yourself permission to validate yourself, your feelings, and then launching into something and accomplishing it is important, right? Acknowledge, validate, act is what I like to say too. Acknowledge that you are in this moment and you are having this experience, and that this experience happened to you, or you're going through it right now. And then validate the feelings that you have around this situation or this era of your life. Sometimes those feelings can be anger because, oh my gosh, I didn't expect to be aging like this. I don't know. Sometimes it's frustration, it's joy, it's love, it's all kinds of feelings. It can be sadness, it can be happiness, it can be all kinds of things, right? But, validate that and then act on it. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to either change the situation, to experience a more robust situation, to have what you want? And we all have that list. You can't tell me that you are sitting here listening to this saying, nope, my life is pretty perfect. I don't want anything else. There's nothing else that I have wanted to try, wanted to see, wanted to travel, I'm going to call you a liar on that. Because we all have things that we want more of, and it's okay to want more. It's not greedy. It's not disingenuous. It's not crass. It's not arrogant. It's not any of those things. You know what I want? I want to travel more. I want to landscape my front yard. I want to, paint the house. Whatever it is that I want to do, right? And so I'm going to need to get access to things to be able to make that happen for me. And so finding a way to get the things that you want is validating the feelings that you're having about that stuff. And that we can talk about manifestation in a different conversation, because I'm a firm believer in manifestation. But also, as we get older, we shouldn't have to give into fear. Don't do that. Of things that we don't deserve, right? You deserve everything all the time, right? And that's why it's important to age without apology, right? Don't apologize. When people start their conversation with "I'm sorry, but," don't ever apologize unless you actually owe somebody an apology. Because "I'm sorry, but" is not an apology. So "I'm sorry, but" is like, "I'm sorry, I'm getting older." Don't apologize for getting older. "I'm sorry, but I'm old." Nope. I'm old. This is how it's going to be, right? Lose the "I'm sorry" unless you actually have to give an apology to someone. Then it's a different reason for the "I'm sorry." But it's a habit for a lot of people to apologize before they go into their explanation of something. And 9 times out of 10, an explanation is not needed, right? Or an apology is not needed in their explanation. And so aging without an apology is important. I have been having conversations with friends and online friends and other coaches around the interwebs, especially since I started, the menopause podcast that we're talking about right now. I got a bug bite and I'm itchy, sorry. And I'd like to ask them things about, aging and what being in this stage of life means. And so I asked a few people that I know out there in the world, what's one thing you love about aging? And here's a few answers that I got back. Somebody said, "I finally say no without guilt." And if you're a mom, you know what mom guilt is. And I know people that have a lot of it, and I know people that have a little bit of it. I'm somewhere I don't normally harbor guilt when it comes to my kids. And I never really have. I never felt guilty leaving them with daycare or with babysitters or sending them to school or going on a weekend away without them. Like those, I never felt guilty about that because I walked into parenting with a mindset that my children were going to enhance my life and I was going to enhance their lives by being a parent who wasn't going to hover and wasn't going to feel guilty about, not being able to this or that or to, do things without them, that kind of stuff. And my parents were really good about that. I'm sure my mom had mom guilt. Like she was a hoverer for a lot of different things. But she definitely was, there wasn't guilt about sending us to school and there wasn't guilt about babysitters and that kind of thing. So I'm somewhat, I definitely have had it, don't get me wrong, but I don't live in I live for my children and so I feel guilty when I'm not doing things without them. That's not it, right? So saying no to things without feeling guilty is not hard for somebody like me because no is a complete sentence and I have taught that to people in my life for them to understand. But don't feel guilty for not going to the party and don't feel guilty for, not being available for something. We can't be in all the places at the same time, right? So finally saying no without feeling guilty was one answer that I got. Somebody else said, "I stopped trying to be small, physically, emotionally, and in every way," right? It goes back to our earlier conversation of aging and shrinking back into the shadows instead of standing and, standing in your worth and knowing your value. Like stop trying to be small and be who you are. Be loud, be proud, be energetic, be all in on the things that you believe in, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is. This is a good one. I wrote a book several years ago, and of course I don't have it sitting around in this office so I could show it to you, but it's called Why Am I Yelling? Because Relationships. And it's about the 5 essentials that you need in every relationship to make them be successful. And one of the favorite lines in my book is, the most important relationship you're ever going to have is the relationship that you have with yourself. And when I was talking to this person about what's one thing you love about aging, she said, I've become my own best friend. And that directly brought me back to when I was writing that book and when I wrote that line in that book, because it's true. The most important relationship you're ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. And that does not discount the relationships that you have with your spouse or your life partner or your children or your friends or anybody else. But it really does magnify or amplify the relationship that you have with you. It is being comfortable in your skin. It is embracing everything about you, your faults, your celebrations, your struggles, your joys, your aging, your wrinkles and your smile lines, right? It's becoming your own best friend and truly knowing who you are and what you want and trying to figure out how to get to the next place comfortably and without so much, turbulence. And then the last one I have is my give a damn is officially broken, right? It goes back to the I don't give a fuck, the we do not care club, the, being out there and being willing to embrace your voice and use that voice in a way that is brilliant and beautiful and smart and engaging and empathetic and kind and compassionate, but also firm when it needs to be. And standing in your conviction and your beliefs. We are living in a time right now where our beliefs and our conviction and our everything is being tested. And I think for women, especially middle-aged women, now is our time to kind of step into that power and use it because it's important. It's important for us as we age and for our growth, but it's important for the women and people who are coming up behind us. Aging out loud. So let's talk about aging out loud. Here's the truth. It is not something to hide. It is something to honor. Honor your growth, right? Every line, every gray hair, every hot flash is proof that you have lived and survived and kept going. Go back to every day is a gift, because it is, right? To the women who are worried about turning 40, 50, or 60, every decade is a different decade. My 30s were amazing. My 40s hit some turbulence because that was when health crises for my parents turned up and all that stuff happened. And now I'm 2 years into my 50s, 2 years and several months into my 50s. And I'm coming out of that turbulent stage, right? I'm coming out of the COVID situation and the grief of losing my parents and my brother, and just trying to stay the course for what's coming next, because I know that what's coming next is big and beautiful and bright. And that's how I choose to find joy in every day, because I know that there's more. There's always more. And you can always have more. So let's go get more, right? So don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't chase yesterday. Chase tomorrow, right? Chase joy. Chase purpose. Chase peace. There is nothing greater than feeling at ease or peaceful when you are winding down your day or you're thinking about your life. And that doesn't mean that we don't come without stress or any of those things, right? It just means that you're comfortable where you are, right? We're not aging quietly. We are aging out loud. Out loud! And if anyone is uncomfortable with that, well, go tell them to get a fan, because a hot flash is coming in hot, if you know what I mean. Speaking of hot, our last segment for every episode is What's Dinner? Is dinner going to be hot tonight? Is it going to be cold tonight? Or is it even going to happen tonight? I don't even know. I'm recording this on a Friday, and my husband Will is in the city in his office. Today is one of his office days. So that means I'm not necessarily making dinner because it's also the summer, and my little guy is at his camp at the lake, and my big guy is at work, and it's Friday night, and he's probably going to be out with his friends. So I'm not sure what dinner is. I actually was scrolling before through Instagram, and I saw somebody had waffles. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe breakfast for dinner tonight. Who likes breakfast for dinner? Let me know. Comment what you make breakfast for dinner. I'm thinking of doing waffles with fresh berries and some whipped cream. I don't have any bacon, or else I'd do bacon too, but I guess I could have somebody pick it up on their way home. I'm not sure. We'll see. That's what's dinner tonight. Either nothing or breakfast. Thank you guys for tuning in to Why Am I Yelling? Musings of a Middle-Aged Menopausal Mom. If this episode fired you up, please share it with your fierce, fabulous, aging like a badass friends. Follow me at Why Am I Yelling Pod on all the social medias for more midlife magic. And don't forget to leave a review or a comment, especially if it helps more women find their power right where they are. Until next time, yellers, yell loud, age proud, and you know what? Do it on your terms. I love you. We'll see you next time.